He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Friedrich Nietzsche. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. You didn't come here to be a number. You didn't come here to play it safe. But the moment you opened your eyes in this world, the game had already begun. Rules were waiting, expectations were prepared, and a system older than you can imagine was ready to shape you before you even knew your own name. You're born into a play. You get a script before you can speak. You're taught to be polite before you learn to say what you feel. You're rewarded for being quiet, punished for being loud, corrected for being different, and praised for fitting in. This is not life. This is programming. The system doesn't want individuals. It wants predictability. It wants obedience. It wants energy that flows in circles. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. And so it breaks you gently. With cartoons, with school, with praise, with punishments, with toys, with screens, with dreams that aren't even yours. They tell you who you are before you can ask the question yourself. Boy or girl, smart or not, good or bad. And slowly, you start to build a mask. Not out of lies, but out of fear. The fear of not being loved. The fear of being rejected. The fear of being seen as you really are. You don't even notice it, because it feels normal. Everyone around you plays the same game. Everyone wears the same masks. And you forget. You forget that there was once a fire inside you, that you once knew you were here for something real, something big, something only you could do. But now, you play safe. You wait for permission. You say what you're supposed to say. You want to be accepted more than you want to be free. And you call this life. But it's not life. It's survival. The tragedy is not that the system exists. The tragedy is that it works. It keeps people asleep, not with violence, but with comfort. It doesn't need to hurt you. It just needs to keep you entertained, distracted, busy, and full of just enough hope to keep you going, but never enough truth to wake you up. They gave you comfort instead of power, security instead of truth, applause instead of identity. And you took it, not because you're weak, but because you were too young to know you had a choice. And then one day, the cage becomes invisible. It becomes home. But somewhere deep down, the fire didn't die. It just went silent, buried under layers of should, must, and someday. It waits, not for the right moment, but for the moment you've had enough, when the lies can't hold anymore, when the comfort starts to feel like poison, when survival starts to feel like death. That moment is not a breakdown. It's a signal, a sign that something real is trying to wake up inside you, something wild, something ancient, something that remembers why you came here in the first place. You were never meant to be tamed. You were never meant to be predictable. You were never meant to repeat what's already been done. You came to create, to build, to tear down, to feel, to speak, to love, to burn, to transform. The system doesn't care about any of that, but your soul does. And one day, the mask starts to crack, maybe through pain, maybe through loss, maybe through a sudden silence that screams louder than any noise. And for a second, you remember, you feel it, that you are not who they said you are. You were born for something more than this. That's where the story begins. There is something inside you that never left. Even when you played every role they gave you, even when you smiled for acceptance, even when you buried your dreams so deep You forgot their names. Something stayed. A quiet fire. A whisper. A knowing. You didn't imagine it. You weren't being naive. You weren't dreaming. What you felt, that pull, that sense that you were here for more, it was real. And it still is. But this world is built to kill that voice before it grows teeth. From the very start, you're surrounded by noise. Expectations dressed as love. Warnings disguised as wisdom. Comparison served as education. And slowly, the voice inside you, the one that knows, gets drowned in everyone else's version of who you should be. They tell you to dream, but not too loud. To express, but only what's acceptable. To be yourself, but only if it fits the image. And so you adapt. You shrink, you fit in. You get applause for becoming smaller. And no one talks about what it costs. But deep inside, the fire doesn't forget. That's the truth no one tells you. Your life is not random. Your presence is not an accident. You carry something this world has never seen before. And if you don't live it, it dies with you. All the potential, all the power, all the truth. You came here to unfold. Not to be perfect. Not to follow. Not to play safe. But to awaken every part of you that was born to create, to rebel, to love wildly, to say what others are afraid to say. You came here to burn, so others could remember their own fire. But this system, it doesn't want your fire. It wants your silence. It wants your energy, but not your soul. It wants you to be useful, but never free. So it feeds you just enough pleasure to keep you numb, just enough validation to keep you chasing, just enough fear to keep you still. You start to believe that being realistic is wise, that comfort is success, that doing what you're told is strength. But deep down, you feel the tension. You feel the weight of a life that never asked you who you truly are. Because you already know. You've always known. Under the distractions, behind the fear, beneath the years of being molded, your truth never stopped beating. It just got quiet, waiting for the moment you were strong enough to listen. That moment is now. The truth no one says out loud, the one they're afraid you'll realize, is this: you are the only one who can give yourself back to yourself. No one is coming. No one is going to rescue the real you from the prison of comfort and conformity. Only you can do that. And it begins with a choice. Not a big one, not loud, not dramatic, just a whisper of defiance. A refusal to keep lying to yourself. A decision to stop living on autopilot. A breath that says, enough. Because once you taste your own truth, even for a second, you can't go back. The fire starts to rise. The lies lose their power. The old games feel empty. And the life you thought you wanted begins to crumble. Because it was never yours to begin with. This is not a crisis. This is your soul waking up. And once it wakes up, nothing can stop it. Not fear, not judgment, not failure. Once you remember why you came here, no cage will ever feel like home again. That's the truth they never wanted you to hear. And now you can't unhear it. You wake up, but not really. Your eyes open, your body moves, you go through the motions, but something essential stays numb. You reach for your phone before you even take your first breath of presence. Notifications light up the screen. News, ads, noise. It feels like connection, but it's sedation. You scroll, you swipe, you laugh at things you forget 2 seconds later. It gives the illusion of momentum, of life happening. But underneath it all, something's missing. And it's been missing for a long time. You move through the day with purpose on the surface and emptiness underneath. You eat, but don't taste. You speak, but rarely say anything real. You work, but the work doesn't touch your soul. You get things done, check boxes, earn praise, but every victory feels hollow. And no one around you says anything because they're all living in the same trance. Everyone is tired, but not from doing too much, from doing too little of what actually matters. Everyone is hungry, but not for food, for meaning, for truth, for something that feels alive. But instead of feeding that hunger, we numb it with shows, with scrolling, with endless background noise that fills the space where our spirit used to speak. The system doesn't attack you directly. It doesn't need to. It just gives you enough comfort to keep you quiet. It offers you distractions in exchange for your fire. It praises you when you stay small. It rewards routine. It teaches you to fear discomfort and worship convenience. Little by little, you become manageable, predictable, harmless. The world smiles at your obedience and calls it maturity, but what it really is a coma with open eyes. And the worst part is how real it all feels. The structures around you, jobs, expectations, roles, rules, all feel permanent, solid, untouchable. You forget that they're human-made illusions, that someone, somewhere, decided this is how life should look. And because you were born into it, you never question it. You just adapt. You play the part. You survive. And deep down, you tell yourself, this is how it is. But that voice inside, the one that's been silent for years, still whispers, this is not who you are. That voice is not wrong. It's the only honest thing left. But it terrifies you, because if you listen, everything might fall apart. The image you built, the identity you defend, the comfort you wrapped around your fear and called happiness. That's the real reason people stay asleep. Not because they can't wake up, but because they're afraid of what waking up will destroy. And they're right, it will destroy the lie. And the lie has become home. But there comes a point when the lie stops working, when the comfort begins to rot, when every new distraction tastes bitter, when the body is alive but the soul is suffocating. That's when the coma starts to crack, not with a scream, but with silence, a deep, hollow silence that nothing external can fill. You sit in that silence long enough, and something old begins to stir. Not a thought, not a dream, a presence, something real, something that remembers why you came here. At first, it's hard to face, because it doesn't speak in words. It burns. It aches. It wants movement, expression, truth. And you're not used to that. You're used to managing emotions, not feeling them. You're used to filtering yourself, not unleashing. But the presence inside you has no patience for masks. It wants all of you. Raw, flawed, messy, alive. And if you listen to it, really listen, you'll realize you were never meant to fit in. That moment when you feel your own truth for the first time in years changes everything. The system still looks the same. The world still plays the same games. But now you see it for what it is. A loop, a distraction, a cage with golden walls. And you begin to ask, not what should I do, but what have I been hiding from? That shift is the beginning of real awakening. Not some romantic vision, not some perfect peace. A rough, honest, sometimes brutal encounter with your own soul. And once that begins, there's no going back. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unfeel what's now alive in you. You might still play the roles, speak the language, go through the motions, but inside, something is different. You're watching, you're feeling, you're remembering. That's the real revolution. Not outside, inside. The fire that never died, you only waited. You were not meant to sleepwalk through life. You were not born to decorate a prison cell. You came here to burn, to build, to remember. And the system, no matter how strong, can't stop a person who has felt their own truth. The world fears that kind of person, because that kind of person doesn't obey, doesn't numb, doesn't shrink. That kind of person becomes the reminder others didn't know they were waiting for. And it all begins the moment you stop pretending that the coma is life. It doesn't happen overnight. It begins slowly, quietly, like a warm blanket on a cold night. A little success here, a little ease there, a few compliments, a promotion, a relationship that feels safe, a routine that doesn't hurt. And before you know it, you're no longer chasing anything. You're managing, maintaining, settling. You call it peace. But something underneath knows. This is not peace. This is paralysis. The comfort zone is not a bad place. That's why it's so dangerous. It feels good. It feels earned. It feels deserved. And for a while, maybe it even is. After pain, after chaos, after running, a little stillness feels like healing. But the comfort zone doesn't stop at healing. It wants more. It wants to keep you there. Not for a day, not for a season, forever. At first, you think you're just resting, taking a break, regaining strength. But the longer you stay, the heavier you become. The fire that once moved you starts to flicker. The hunger that once drove you becomes dull. And soon, you begin to protect the very life you once prayed to escape. You tell yourself stories, that you're happy, that this is enough, that maybe you were wrong about wanting more. But that's the thing about the soul. It doesn't forget. It doesn't adapt. It doesn't compromise. You can numb it, ignore it, distract it. But deep inside, it still remembers the mountain you were meant to climb, the voice you were born to speak with, the path that was yours alone. And every time you choose comfort over calling, something inside you dims. You start to fear risk, fear change, fear discomfort, not because they're truly dangerous, but because they threaten the illusion you built. You've invested so much in being okay that the idea of wanting more feels ungrateful. You've spent years creating stability that the thought of shaking it feels like betrayal. So you stay, not because you're fulfilled, but because you're afraid of what leaving might cost. But that fear, it's the sign that you're still alive, that something inside you still wants out of the loop, out of the numbness, out of the lie. Because deep down, you know the truth. Real growth only happens in the unknown. Real freedom only lives beyond safety. And real purpose always demands sacrifice. The comfort zone doesn't just hold your body, it holds your mind, your beliefs, your identity. It creates a version of you that feels right, but isn't real. You start to think small, move small, feel small. You avoid hard conversations. You stop asking big questions. You lower your standards. You choose what's easy over what's true. And in doing so, you slowly become a stranger to yourself. And the world will applaud you for it. It will call you responsible, grounded, humble. It will reward your silence, your compromise, your invisibility. It will tell you you've made it, that this is what success looks like. But deep down, your soul will scream. Because you were not made for comfort. You were made for aliveness. Aliveness is messy, unpredictable, wild. It breaks patterns. It destroys fake peace. It leads you into dark forests with no guarantee of light. But it's the only thing that's real, the only thing that matters. Because comfort never created anything. Comfort never changed the world. Comfort never woke someone up. Pain did. Truth did. Hunger did. So the question is never, am I comfortable? The real question is, am I growing? Am I expanding? Am I becoming more honest? More alive? More myself? If the answer is no, then the comfort is killing you. Slowly, quietly, beautifully. But there is a way out. And it doesn't begin with a massive leap. It begins with honesty, with one real moment of truth, one decision to stop lying to yourself, one breath where you admit, this is not enough. This is not who I came here to be. That one breath is the crack in the cage, and once it opens, it can't be closed. From there, you'll feel the fear, the doubt, the pull to go back, to stay safe. But if you keep moving, if you keep choosing growth over ease, truth over comfort, purpose over image, you'll feel something else too. You'll feel your fire coming back, your voice, your rhythm. You'll feel the energy in your body that you thought was gone forever. And you'll remember who you are. That memory is your freedom, not a goal, not a place, a state of being. And it only returns when you stop settling. The cage will still be there. The comfort will still call you. But now you'll know the price. You'll know what it costs to stay silent. You'll know what it feels like to betray yourself. And once you know that, really know it, you'll never trade your soul for safety again. Because you didn't come here to sleep. You came here to rise. There is a part of you that you buried. Not because it was evil, not because it was wrong, but because it was too wild, too intense, too true. From the beginning, you were taught which parts of yourself were acceptable, the polite, the obedient, the quiet, and which ones were dangerous, the loud, the angry, the passionate, the rebellious. So you made a choice, even if you didn't know you were making it. You took everything that didn't fit, and you locked it away. That locked away part is your shadow. It's not your enemy. It's not your shame. It's the you that you were forced to abandon to survive. It holds your power, your clarity, your desire, your instincts. It's the part of you that knows how to say no, how to protect, how to fight, how to feel. And without it, you're only half alive. The system depends on your shadow staying hidden. Because once you access it, you stop being predictable. You stop being manageable. You start moving from something deeper than fear or approval. And that terrifies the world. Because a whole human being with their light and their darkness integrated, cannot be controlled. You were taught to believe your shadow was bad, that your anger was dangerous, that your desire made you selfish, that your intensity made you too much. So you suppressed. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You agreed when everything in you said no. You made yourself smaller so others would feel comfortable. And for a while, it worked. You were liked, accepted, safe, but not whole. The cost of abandoning your shadow is internal silence. That numb, gray feeling that you can't explain. The constant exhaustion, the low-grade sadness, the lack of direction. You tell yourself you're just tired or lost or stuck. But the truth is, you've lost access to your own life force. Your shadow is your fire. It holds the truth that no one wanted to hear, the emotions that were too raw to express, the dreams that were too big, the boundaries that were never allowed. When you suppress all that, it doesn't disappear. It waits. It grows. And one day, it shows up in ways you can't control: anxiety, depression, sabotage, rage, confusion. Not because it wants to hurt you, but because it wants to come home. The only way back to yourself is through that door. Through the discomfort, through the shame, through the pain. The shadow will not harm you. It will test you. It will ask if you are finally ready to be honest, if you are finally willing to feel what you've avoided for years, if you are finally brave enough to carry your whole self, not just the parts that win approval. When you begin this process, the world won't understand. People will call you unstable, dramatic, selfish. They'll say, "You've changed." They'll say you're too much. That's because they're still afraid of their own shadow. They can't stand the sight of someone who has made peace with their own depth. But you're not here to be understood. You're here to be whole. And wholeness means contradiction. It means being soft and strong, gentle and fierce, grounded and wild. It means honoring the parts of you that don't make sense to the world, but make perfect sense to your soul. There's a reason ancient myths speak of dragons, of dark forests, of monsters under the bed. They were never about the outside world. They were metaphors. The dragon is your shadow. The forest is your pain. The monster is the truth you're not ready to see. And the treasure? That's always you, the real you, the full you, the version that doesn't need to perform anymore. You don't kill the dragon. You ride it. You don't avoid the forest. You walk through it. You don't run from the monster. You look it in the eyes until it turns into something familiar. This is the journey of every real transformation. It's not about becoming better, it's about becoming true. And the truth is this: you cannot be free until you reclaim what you gave away. You cannot feel alive until you feel everything. You cannot create, protect, love, or lead until your shadow is no longer a stranger. This doesn't mean losing control. It means regaining it. True control is not suppression. It's integration. It's knowing when to roar and when to whisper, when to hold back and when to let go, when to fight and when to surrender. That wisdom only comes when all parts of you are at the same table, speaking, moving, acting together. So if you feel lost, numb, tired, it's not because something's wrong with you, it's because something vital is missing. A part of you has been waiting in the dark for years, not to punish you, to rejoin you, to give you back your edge, your truth, your power. Let it in, let it speak, let it move through your body and your words and your choices. Not recklessly, not blindly, but honestly, fully, wildly. You'll scare people, you'll trigger people, but you'll also awaken people. Most importantly, you'll awaken yourself. And once you do, the world will never be the same. You weren't born passive. You weren't born hesitant, doubtful, overthinking every step. You came into this world reaching, grabbing, moving toward life with instinct, force, hunger. But over time, something changed. Not suddenly, gradually, you were taught to wait, to ask, to hold back, to be careful. And slowly, your will, your raw, untamed ability to choose and act, began to shrink. Now, you call it overthinking. You call it laziness. You call it burnout. But that's not what it is. It's a broken connection between your desire and your decision. A fracture in the place where action is supposed to live. You still feel the spark. You still get the ideas, the visions, the pull to move. But when it's time to act, something stops you. A fog, a weight, a voice that says, "Not yet, not today. Who are you to try?" This is not your nature. This is your conditioning. The system never needed to chain your body. It only needed to hijack your will. Because a person who has no will can be shaped into anything, can be controlled, redirected, distracted, can be made to serve anything but themselves. And the way the system breaks the will is simple, by disconnecting you from the experience of success and replacing it with the illusion of control. From the beginning, you were told what to do, what's right, what's safe. You were punished for disobedience, rewarded for obedience. You were praised for following, never for leading. The more you obeyed, the more approval you received. And approval began to feel like love. So you kept reaching for it, again and again, even when it hurt. They didn't need to tell you to sit still forever. They just needed to make you afraid to move without permission. And so now, even as an adult, when you have the freedom to act, you hesitate. You plan instead of moving. You overanalyze instead of trusting. You look for signs, for certainty, for guarantees, anything to avoid the raw, real moment of decision. The moment where you say, "I'm doing this, no matter what." That moment is the door, and your will is the key. But most people have forgotten they even have it. You don't need more motivation. You don't need a better routine or a perfect plan or a step-by-step guide. You need to feel your own yes again. The yes that comes from the gut, not the mind. The yes that doesn't ask for permission. That doesn't care if it's perfect or ready or guaranteed. The yes that moves because it must. That yes has been silenced. Not by weakness, by noise, by a lifetime of being told to be smart, not bold, strategic, not true, careful, not alive. But the truth is, your will has never left. It's just waiting under the weight of everything you were told you needed to be. And here's the trap. Every time you hesitate, you reinforce the story that you can't trust yourself. Every time you pause instead of pounce, the self-doubt grows stronger, until you start to believe that's just who you are. But it's not who you are. It's who you became when the world convinced you that playing small was safe. The way back is not through thinking more. It's through acting before the fear can speak. It's through doing the thing even with the voice in your head screaming that you're not ready. It's through reclaiming the moment. The very first moment, when you feel the urge and not letting it die in the mind. The world is full of ideas, full of dreams, full of talkers, but very few movers, very few who dare to build from nothing. Very few who say yes to themselves louder than the world says no. And the ones who do, they are not the smartest or the most skilled. They are simply the ones who chose to trust their will more than their fear. Will is not aggression. It's not force. It's not domination. It's clarity. It's alignment. It's the clean line between knowing and doing. It's what makes a person magnetic, what makes them unstoppable, what makes them sovereign. You don't need more information. You don't need another course, another mentor, another green light. You need to reclaim your decision. The raw, direct, unapologetic, "I want this," that moves your feet, your voice, your hands, your life. And yes, you will lose people. People who preferred the version of you that waited, that asked, that second-guessed. You'll scare people who are still trapped in their own indecision. You'll trigger those who gave up on their own voice. But you will gain something far greater, yourself. The part of you that remembers what it means to move without apology, to speak without rehearsal, to act without guarantees. That part is not reckless. It's real. And realness is rare in a world built on performance. This isn't about being impulsive. It's about being honest. About responding to your life as it moves through you. About not letting your inner yes die under layers of shoulds and maybe laters. It's about honoring the moment you feel the pull and letting that be enough. Because when your will returns, everything changes. You stop waiting. You stop shrinking. You stop pretending you don't care. You start choosing. You start creating. You start living from the fire, not the fog. That fire is yours. It always was. No one can give it to you. No one can take it from you. But you have to light it. You have to say yes to your own power again and again until it becomes your nature again. Not someday, not when it's perfect, not when the fear is gone. Now, here it is. The truth they never taught you. The truth they buried under slogans, systems, comforts, and noise. The truth that would make everything else fall apart if too many people remembered it. You are not here to be a copy. You are not here to survive, to blend in, to exist quietly. You are here to realize every drop of your potential. All of it. Not just some safe, acceptable version. Everything. That means your thoughts, your fire, your instincts, your madness, your vision that doesn't fit into any existing frame, your energy that threatens what's been built to keep people asleep, your truth, even if it burns every lie you've ever lived inside. But you'll never find yourself unless you step out of the structure that was built to keep you forgetful. The structure of performance, of comfort, of doing what's expected. Because that structure is not neutral. It is a trap. A well-designed, polished, addictive trap that rewards you for giving up on yourself piece by piece. It doesn't take your life in one blow. It takes it in fragments. One small compromise at a time. One quiet betrayal. One decision to wait instead of leap. To smile instead of scream. To scroll instead of feel. To follow instead of create. Until one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize who's looking back. Because that's not you. It's the version you became to stay safe. And yet, underneath it all, something is still awake. That silent, burning pulse. That raw ache that doesn't leave. That whisper that says, "This is not it." That's your signal. That's your invitation. That's the start of everything real. Because here's what they don't want you to know. You don't find yourself. You create yourself with your choices, with your risks, with the fire you're willing to walk through, with the truth you're willing to tell, and most of all, with the life you're brave enough to build from your own voice. That's the only way out. Not escape, expression, not waiting, moving, not asking, becoming. And yes, it will cost you. It will cost you your comfort, your false peace, your fake smiles, your approval from people who never knew the real you. But what you get in return is everything. You get your power back, your energy, your will, your clarity, your aliveness. You get to finally live like you were born to. Wild, true, awake, free. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.